If you've got an amazing original light novel, J-Novel Club might just have a check for 15 grand for you. Hello everybody and welcome to this video where I am covering a pretty different announcement that J-Novel Club just made at Anime Expo, and it is that they are going to be running an original light novel contest, and they're doing this in cooperation with Kadokawa and Bookwalker. Now, I'm going to read you a little bit from the actual press release for this. So the contest is being announced. Obviously, it was just announced at the Anime Expo panel. They have set up a web page that I will link in the description down below that gives you a lot more details, a few facts and stuff like that that you might want to check out. You also can sign up for a mailing list that is specifically dedicated to the contest. And the contest has several prize tiers. A grand prize of $15,000 and a manga adaptation by Kadokawa. The first prizes are of $3,000 each, and then the runner-up prizes are $1,000 each. And then there is a Bookwalker prize, which is valued at $2,500. And what they do say is that in addition, that all award winners will receive cover and internal artwork created alongside digital publication by J-Novel Club. The submissions are scheduled to open in early August, but they go all the way. The final submission deadline is January 31st of 2024. So pretty much you've got the rest of this year and all of January to write your light novel, polish it up, because you can only submit it once. So make sure it's as banger as it is, like, before you submit it. So I'm just going to talk a little bit further, like looking at this website of theirs. There's just a couple things that you should probably know. So the contest is going to consist of 2 rounds. The final selection will be occurring after that. What'll happen is the first round selection will be announced March 31st. Those are just like all the submissions. They're going to announce which ones are going to the second round. The second round selection will be announced May 31st. And during that second round, any books that qualify for the second round, you will have like a preview of your book published on J-Novel's website, where J-Novel's members can vote for which one is their favorite. And then finally, the final selections, the actual award winners, will be announced at Anime Expo in 2024. So basically, you've got a solid year to wait and to see just how you're going to land on this one. There is, of course, some eligibility requirements for this. Ones that you might want to really pay attention to is that, first of all, you have to be of legal age in your own home country, because you have to be able to sign a legal contract. Basically, what's happening with this contest is that the money is being awarded as like an advance. If you know how books work in the publishing industry, typically authors receive what are called royalties. And that is basically a certain percentage of the sale price goes to the author. And an advance is where basically the company pays the author upfront so much money, and then once that book has made that amount of money back, then the author starts getting paid their royalties on anything after that. It's usually a practice that a lot of companies have used in order to secure rights out of the gate for books that they think are going to be really popular. And in this case, obviously J-Novel Club is doing this as a way to pay out the winners. And because you're being published on the J-Novel website, it does kind of make sense. The other thing that I was actually really pleased to see in this is that, unlike some other, book contests, and I'm going to tell you, some of them can be very predatory. You really want to read the fine print. They do state very clearly here that your IP still belongs to you. All you are doing by submitting to this contest is that if you win, you are giving J-Novel Club the rights to publish your book, at least for a 5-year contract. And 5-year contracts are pretty standard in the publishing industry, so that's not really nefarious by any means. And I mean, there's no reason why they couldn't renew it if they wanted to with you, but that again would have to be a negotiated contract, and you'd have to actually say, yeah, I want to do this, or you say no and you walk away with your book. But what's really good about this is that it does give you that ability that, let's say you write a book that you really like and you think to yourself, there's a series you can make out of it. You could continue to publish other sequels to that book, and you're allowed to because it's yours. And that, I think, is probably the most important thing that any contest should offer right up front and be very upfront about, is whether you still retain all the rights to your work. And honestly, any contest that tells you that you don't, you shouldn't enter it. Like, period, bar none. I don't care what kind of prize they offer. It very well is not worth it, and you probably don't want to work with them anyway, because that is a very predatory practice. So like I said, J-Novel Club, right up front, they're very open about the fact that you still own the rights to your book, and that really all you're doing is signing an exclusivity agreement with them if you win. From what I can tell, if you don't win at all, book's yours. There's nothing, it's completely released by them. So there's no ownership there, which is fantastic news. Also, your book has to be at least 35,000 words and no more than 100,000 words. And it has to be work that you have never sold. And they even address the idea that if you, let's say, have a Patreon where people support you as a writer, that's kind of a gray area. And they said, like, you'll have to address that with them. And they may very well turn around and say, no, you can't use that book, if it's perceived that the book was a monetary incentive for people to sign up for your Patreon, because then it's like you're gaining a monetary reward from it. So if you've already self-published for sale a book, if you've published it on a website that, you get paid per reads or anything like that, you cannot submit it to this contest. Another thing that you really want to consider too is that you need to make this a complete story. Now, they do say that, sure, it's great, it's awesome if you leave it open that it can be continued, but they want like an actual beginning, middle, and end to this thing. So this is kind of like the Sword Art Online kind of scenario where you got to make sure that your story actually has a beginning, middle, and end, but just don't paint yourself into a corner where the most interesting part of the story's over in case you want to write more afterwards. Anyhow, there's obviously other details and a little bit more information at J-Novel Club's website. I absolutely encourage you that if you are interested at all in this contest, that you check that link. Like I said, I've got it in the description down below, and go and read all of this for yourself. Any opportunity they present you to read like additional fine print or anything, make sure you read all that before you hand over any of your work. Again, this sounds a lot more above board than a lot of other competitions. I think the one thing that a lot of people will probably notice immediately, and that may get people talking, is that the grand prize does not have to be awarded. If Kadokawa does not see a book that they want to adapt into a manga, no $15,000 prize, no manga adaptation, which seems kind of standard, like even like Japanese practices. I've seen sort of similar things in competitions in Japan, so I guess this is a thing, although it's obviously a little bit disappointing, but I guess given, the amount of money it would take for them to do a manga adaptation, they at least want to make sure it's something they really believe in and that they really think is quality and that they're fairly certain that they're going to be able to sell. The only thing that I couldn't really see answered on the website about this competition that I'd be very interested to know is what happens. So J-Novel Club, as I said, pays you in advance. So if, let's say, you get the $3,000 prize, they give you $3,000 and then they publish your book. Well, what royalties does J-Novel Club typically pay to an author for their light novels that they've licensed? What happens if your book sells and you would have made more than that $3,000 in royalties? Will they pay you the difference? Or is that it? It's just like, it's not actually in advance. It is your royalties, period, for the entirety of the 5-year contract. I'd be very interested to see if any of that's addressed, and of course you will have to weigh out for yourself what you want to do and what, you think works best for you. But that is one thing that immediately I was like, okay, well, it's awesome you guys are keeping the IP. It's awesome that you're being above board that way. But what does happen if, someone's book suddenly goes off like gangbusters and they sell way more than, $3,000 worth of royalties on it? Will they get that money? Will they ever see that money? I'm just curious. Again, I don't know, and I'm not necessarily saying that it's nefarious one way or the other. I'm just curious. And I'll be blunt, if they don't do it, I'd still consider that, fair enough. You're going in eyes wide open. If they do, though, that's pretty phenomenal. I will say that is actually really a decent way of running this. All in all, honestly, this is kind of an exciting thing, though. It's the first time that original English light novel authors are getting an opportunity to enter into a light novel contest on this level with a really major Japanese publisher, also giving you the opportunity that if you win any of the prizes, that you're going to get original artwork for your book and have it published by a real powerhouse in the light novel publishing industry in the English speaking world. And I'm very curious to see where this goes. It's funny because years ago, myself and other members of the Light Novel podcast, we talked to Sam and we actually said to him that he should consider doing something like this. And that we said that he should actually consider doing like an imprint that publishes original English light novels. And obviously at the time, he really did not have the wiggle room to make that happen. But obviously the partnership with Kadokawa opens doors. So it did make me chuckle when I saw this announcement, because I was like, dude, we gave you this idea ages ago. But it's kind of cool to see it come full circle, and that, it is actually happening. And I'm very curious to see whether this will become regular, that they'll do sort of a yearly contest like this. That's a very typical thing in the Japanese market, or I guess, whether they will take a look at an OELN imprint. I guess it'll all depend on how these books that they publish out of this contest do. So very interesting, very lots of unanswered questions right now, but I'm very curious to see how this will all play out. And I don't know, do I want to even try? I don't know. Yeah, I am definitely working on some stuff, but I don't know if any of it I would really even class as being like a light novel per se. But then when you consider just how wide open the definition of light novels are, just about anything could be a light novel nowadays, I guess, as long as you figure people who like light novels will like it, I think is kind of the benchmark nowadays. But in any case, you know what? Let me know in the comments down below. Are you into this? Is this something that you're like, yes, I've been waiting for this opportunity? I know there's been a few other contests, but that have been similar. Like I know my anime list did something kind of like this, but when you're talking actual publishers, like book publishers, like J-Novel and Kadokawa, powerhouse. And it really doesn't hurt that they have also that tie to Yen Press, because Yen has been publishing some books that aren't light novels and aren't Japanese. You never know. I don't want to speculate, because obviously it could be all for nothing, and there's nothing in any of this press release that makes me think that Yen will ever be involved. But you know what, man? Publishers go where the money is, so you never know. You just never know. But it's interesting. It's very interesting. I'm very curious to see where this goes. Like I said, let me know in the comments down below. Are you signing up for this? Are you hyped about it? Let me know. I'm curious. In the meantime, thank you so much for checking out this video. Make sure you check out, if you haven't already, my other video with all of the light novels, manga, and a new audiobook adaptation that J Novel Club also announced at Anime Expo. And I will see you in another video. Till then, bye-bye for now.